Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows, all the trending series on all the streaming apps, all the reality shows, all the true crime documentaries, all of it, and then I react to it over here. So if you're somebody that likes to watch TV shows, and you like to have somebody to talk to about TV shows, and have a little conversation back and forth, come over here to Peter Watches TV. Subscribe to my channel, and let me know what shows you want me to watch in the comment section below, and I will cover them. A couple new shows have just come out on Netflix in the last week that I am going to watch. Last night at, I think it was 3 a.m., I started watching the new season of Unsolved Mysteries. Season 4 just came out. It's 5 episodes. The first episode is about Jack the Ripper, and I started watching it last night. I just watched the first episode. I'm saving the other 4 episodes for tonight. That was after I watched Sister Wives, and after I watched Below Deck Mediterranean, and after I watched Welcome to Plathville. I finally got to watch the first episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and it was interesting because somebody DM'd me and they said, oh, because I put it up on my Instagram. If you want to know what I'm watching, go over to my Instagram. I usually post like some of my new favorite shows and little jokes about Sister Wives and stuff like that. But somebody messaged me and they said, right, I was watching at the same time, and they said I was kind of disappointed that they started with Jack the Ripper, and I was like, I was too, but it's actually really well done. So the first episode is about Jack the Ripper, and it's really, really well done. And so, yeah, so I started watching Unsolved Mysteries. The night before, I had finished Sharp Objects, which was a TV show adaptation of the Gillian Flynn novel, Sharp Objects. It was unbelievable, and I'm going to do that reaction over here probably tomorrow or the next day. But the day before, I had finished Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal, which is on Apple TV. And so I wanted to talk about that today because I was just blown away. I was absolutely blown away by this show. And I was waiting for the show to conclude. So I'm kind of at this point now, like back in the day, I think the last show that I did it was Under the Banner of Heaven. My cousin and I were both watching it on Hulu, and we were waiting for like each episode to come out. Maybe it was after that. It was like maybe last fall sometime. Unless it's like a reality show, I'll watch every week, you know, and stuff like that. Or if it's a long series that's going to be like 20 episodes, I'll watch every week. But limited, you know, series or, you know, series that only have like 8 to 10 episodes, I think I'm going to wait until they're all out. Oh, no, I know what show I started doing it with. The newest True Detective that came out. I think it was in December that it came out. I love the True Detective franchise. And so this one was just Jodie Foster. And I waited for it to come out. That was the first show because I watched the first episode. And then I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. I can't wait week to week for them to release an episode, so I'm going to wait till it all comes out. So I've been doing that since then. And Presumed Innocent, I was waiting. I think the last episode came out last week, and so I was last Wednesday, and so I was waiting until it was all out to binge it. And so this weekend I binged it, and I was not disappointed. If you have not watched it and you do not want it spoiled for you, because I'm going to give you guys spoilers in here, so stop watching this video right now. Subscribe to my channel, but stop watching this video. And go watch it and then come back and watch this video afterwards. Because it is, if you love thrillers, it is hands down one of the best thrillers I have ever watched on TV in the store. And he is so good. And I'm a huge fan of Jake Gyllenhaal anyway. And so I'm not such a huge fan. It's interesting because, so Jake Gyllenhaal's sister, Maggie Gyllenhaal, is married to Peter Skarsgård, who, I'm not a huge fan of Peter Skarsgård, but I like him. And he's in it too. And it's interesting knowing their relationship because like Jake Gyllenhaal is best friends with Peter Skarsgård, and they play like enemies in the show. They play like prosecutors that don't like each other on the show. And so it's interesting to kind of see that back and forth between them. But this show does not disappoint. And I have to tell you, I wasn't really ever bored. Like watching Sharp Objects, like the first 2 episodes, it was kind of a slow burn, and then it got really, really good. With Presumed Innocent, I mean literally out of the gate, it was so, so, so good. So the show, which was based on a 1986 novel by Scott Turow, it was actually made into a movie with Harrison Ford years and years and years ago. Do I have it on here when it was made into the movie? I don't know. I don't think I do. I have seen the movie, but I do not remember watching the movie. Is it here? Yeah, it's showing the movie to me right now. But anyway, and I feel like my mom read the book, and I might have read part of the book, but I don't remember. I knew that it was about very much kind of like Gone Girl, and I thought it was about somebody's wife is killed and they're blamed for it. And somebody commented on my video when I said that, and they said, you're thinking about The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. And I was like, I don't remember that. I know I've seen The Fugitive, but I don't remember that movie very well. But anyway, I'm going to go back and watch The Fugitive and Presumed Innocent with Harrison Ford, because I was just blown away with this. So if you don't know what it's about, let me get in here and read it to you for a second. What read to you, oh, wait, hold on a second. Read to you the Presumed Innocent TV show, the synopsis for you really quickly, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so Jake Gyllenhaal is in it, and it is a horrific murder upends the Chicago prosecuting attorney's office when one of its own is suspected of the crime, leaving the accused fighting to keep his family together. So what it's about is that Jake Gyllenhaal is a prosecutor for the prosecutor's office in Chicago. And within like the first, I would say, 10 or 15 minutes of the show, he finds out, I think it's like he wakes up. It's like literally it starts that quick. He wakes up and he finds out that his partner, that his colleague, that was also a prosecutor, was murdered. And that he used to work very closely with her on cases. In fact, they had convicted this murderer in this murder case, and she was like his number 2 to his number 1. And there's like, I guess like when they do it as a team, there's like a number 1 and a number 2. And so they got very close. From the beginning of it, I kind of was like, I feel like I remember the movie, so I knew that they had an affair. I knew like when the murder happened, I was like, oh, now like there was an affair that occurred. So what you find out, and it kind of like comes out through the next 2 episodes, but I already knew it. And if you're watching it and you didn't know, you probably would have the feeling anyway. You find out that, so this woman she's murdered. She's hit over the back of the head by a blunt object, which you later find out is a fire poker. And then she is hogtied. And she's hogtied the same way that the victim in the killing that they convicted the murderer of, that's sitting in prison right at this point, that he hogtied his victim. And so at that time, that murderer threatened her in court and said that he would get her because he's convicted, right? And so through this whole thing, you're not really like sure what's going on. The whole thing is a case. At the beginning of it, there's an election going on. And so Jake Gyllenhaal is like the chief prosecutor underneath the guy that was, is elected as the prosecutor for the city of Chicago. He loses the race to the boyfriend on Loot. If you watch Loot, I don't know what that guy's name is, but he's really good in this. And so he loses, and so then his number 1 prosecutor is Peter Skarsgård, who he and Jake Gyllenhaal don't get along. So basically, they hand the case over to them. At that point, Peter Skarsgård, then his character, I think his name is Mike Molto, he decides that he is going to go after Jake Gyllenhaal because Jake Gyllenhaal has all these text messages to her. He was obsessed with her. He was in love with her. They had this ongoing affair, but he had told his wife that the affair was over. Then you find out that like Jake Gyllenhaal's telling a little bit of this, a little bit of that the affair like was over, but then it started up again, and then she was pregnant at the time of her death with Jake Gyllenhaal's baby. I mean, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And his best friend retires, and so he wants to hire him to represent him because Jake Gyllenhaal eventually gets arrested for the murder of this Carolyn that was his colleague. He gets arrested for the murder, and his wife's like going through it because she knew about the affair. The kids didn't know about the affair. Then you find out later that the son knew about the affair because he had driven by her house, and there's pictures of it. I mean, it's so complicated. And that she had a son and an ex-wife that she never really talked about. And so the son would come and like watch her house and see who was coming and seeing who was going. It is so deep, you guys. Like, I literally was like, I sat there on the heels. I was really, to be honest with you, I was really worried about watching it, okay? Because I just watched Dark Matter, which was the adaptation of the Blake Crouch novel. And I love when I read a book. Now, I don't remember reading the Scott Turow book, but Blake Crouch's book, Dark Matter, I read and I loved. And the adaptation was horrible, okay? The Lori Dave book, The Last Thing He Told Me, was one of my favorite books I read the year that it came out. The adaptation on Apple does fantastic TV shows. If you don't have Apple TV, you're missing out. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I mean, they have so many great TV shows. Silo, Severance, I mean, they have so many great TV shows over there. So, and what's the one with the aliens? I don't know what the one with the aliens is. It's 2 seasons. They're coming out with the 3rd season. I love that one. But anyway, The Last Thing He Told Me, which is with Jennifer Garner, that was fantastic. So I I wasn't really sure. I was like, I like some of the adaptations that they do from books, but others I don't. And so I was really kind of unsure about going into this on the heels of watching Dark Matter and being really, really disappointed. I was not disappointed in this at all. In fact, this is probably one of the best thrillers, if not the best thriller that I have seen in the last 5-6 years. It was so good. And I literally, to be honest with you, like, I'm somebody that I watch so much of this, and I read a lot of thrillers, I read a lot of mysteries, that throughout the show, I kind of like can pick up, and I'm kind of like, oh, this is who it is. So I was talking to my best friend about this on the phone, my best friend Tana Jean, because she watched it. She finished it the night after I did, and so around the same time. And so we were talking about it, and at the very end, what you find out, okay, so he goes through his whole trial and all this kind of stuff, and then they find him innocent, and so he's let go, right? And so at the end, they show him, and he's just standing in the court once the verdict is read, and he's just standing there, and he's like looking around the room, and in that moment, I was like, did he do it, and he just got away with it? And like this whole time, because the whole time you think, if you're the whole time when I was watching it, I was like, did he do it? Did he not do it? But he's so convincing that you think he didn't do it, right? And one of the points is that he's constantly coming up and trying to find the person that did do it. So you're thinking, well, the killer wouldn't constantly be looking for somebody else. Like he goes to prison to go visit the old prisoner, or the old guy that they convicted in the previous murder. He goes and talks to like the son and the ex-husband. So it's constantly like they're taking, almost like a court case, they're taking the viewer to all these different things, so in your head, you're not sure who did it. Throughout the show, I thought he did it. I thought his wife did it. There was that one point when the pictures come out about his son driving by. I thought, oh, is this going to be... Because everybody had told me there was some huge twist. I was like, are we going to find out his son did it? I thought for sure that Peter Skarsgård, the prosecutor, I for sure thought he did it. Somebody puts the fire poker in his house, and so you're like, well, who put the fire poker in his house? Somebody breaks in and puts the fire poker in his house. So you don't know who it is, and then you think it's kind of a setup, and so I'm like, was it Peter? I was sure at the end, but I was like, there's some twist, what can it be? And at that point was when I was like, it's gotta be the wife. If it's none of these people, it's gotta be the wife, right? Like, she's known about the affair, and the way that it kind of unfolds in the last episode, she like packs her bag, she's ready to go. She like stayed with him through the court trial, but she's done, right? And so I was watching it, and I was like, it has to be the wife. Like, it absolutely 100% has to be the wife, right? And so at the and I'm like, what's the twist? Like, is the twist, because people are like, Peter, when you see the twist, like, I really want to know what you think, okay? I will just tell you right now before I get to the twist, I did not see the twist coming at all. Not a mile away, not 10 miles. I did not see it coming at all right? Which I don't know how, because at that point, everybody in the cast, I had thought at one point or another was the killer, except for this one person. And I was like so completely blown away. So what happens is she packs her suitcase and she's in the garage, and she's his wife, and she's working out on like the treadmill or whatever. And so, or the bike and the stair step, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so he goes up there, or he goes down there in this like, they have a really cute house, and this pool, and this like place where she paints, and they all work out inside this garage. And at one point, this is one of the reasons why I thought she was the killer, because the fire poker was cleaned, so clean, and at one point, her son, she's in the garage, like, furiously scrubbing down his bike. And so I thought maybe it was like his wife covered up the son doing something, and so she knew, because then she cleaned the fire poker the same way. I was like, somebody close to the murder had to have the fire poker. They were all at work, and then the fire poker shows, they were all like on trial, and that was the day that she wasn't in court, was when, so I was like, it had to have something to do with her with the fire poker. So he's like, so she has her bags packed, so she's getting ready to leave. So he comes down there to confront her, right? Well, while Jake Gyllenhaal is confronting her, he's like, talking about, like, I know, basically comes around and says, I know that you did it. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she continues to deny it. And you're like, I'm watching it, I'm like, when's she gonna break? When's she gonna break? Well, then he says, I know you did it because I went back, and her body was there, and I was the one that, like, tied her up that way so that they would look at the past. And I'm like, because this is the reason why I thought it was the prosecutor, because they showed him at the beginning of the show, when they showed that court trial of the original killing, they showed him, the old prosecutor, this Mike Molto, Peter Skarsgård, they showed him sitting in the audience of the trial. So it was like he was the only person that would really know about this, well, other than Jake Gyllenhaal, right? And so, because they were saying that somebody that was in that trial would have to know, that was part of that trial, would have to know about how she was tied up that way. So Jake Gyllenhaal goes back to this Carolyn, his girlfriend's apartment, and sees her dead. And he hogties her to make the authorities think, and cleans up the place, to make the authorities think that it's somebody that this guy in prison hired to do the job for him to get back at her, right? And the wife is like continuing to deny it. I, at this point, was like, oh my God, Jake Gyllenhaal did have something to do with it? He's an accessory because he tied her up? And I'm like, oh, the wife is going to split. And then I was like, I'm sure it's the wife. Well, then through the side door walks in the daughter, the sweet daughter that I loved the whole time. And she's like, she starts talking about it. And the wife's response is literally some of the best acting I have seen in any TV show or movie in the last couple of years. I mean, it wasn't even about she couldn't believe it. It was about the fact that she just was like, oh my God, like, I raised a daughter that could go to those lengths to kill somebody. So her daughter, who I think is like 15 or 16, well, she must be 16 because she drives her mother's car. So Jake Gyllenhaal says, well, I saw it on your car that you went to her house that night. That's how I knew that you were there. And his wife's like, no. So his daughter's like, no, I drove mom's car there. And I was there to confront her about the affair, to tell you to leave. And so they show the whole scene of her telling her to leave the family alone. And the woman, I mean, and this is where it's like so smart how they do it. She says to her, she goes, well, I appreciate that, but we are going to get a little bit closer because I'm pregnant with your dad's child. And so when she stands up to go back in the kitchen, the daughter hits her over the head with the fire. She picks up the fire poker and hits her over the head. And then she runs out. So that's what happened. I was blown away. And then it shows them like 3 months later or whatever, and they're all just happy as can be. They're all just like laying around there, and they're like, they don't tell anybody. I guess it's like they just live with it for the rest of their life, and they don't tell anybody. That is, I guess. I was like, what is... My friend Tony Jean is like, how do you just go on with your life and you act like that never happened? I was like, girl, I don't know. I'm so confusion. But it is one of the best TV shows I have seen in a long time. So if you haven't watched Presumed Innocent on Apple TV yet, I'm telling you, do not sleep. And if you don't have Apple TV and know this video is not sponsored, I wish I gave it a sponsorship by Apple TV. If you don't have Apple TV, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but get rid of the other ones and get Apple TV, because Apple TV is fantastic. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Let me know what you want me to cover in the comment section below. I got like 10 shows that I want to cover over here, but I'm always open to new things, so let me know in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.